What if I told you the most effective cooling system ever designed for a home has no compressor, no refrigerant, no monthly utility bill, and never breaks down? It is growing up the walls of forgotten farmhouses and ancient courtyards where builders understood something the HVAC industry spent decades making sure you would forget. The air conditioning industry sells you a system that costs $10,000 to install, $300 a month to run, pumps hydrofluorocarbons into the atmosphere, and becomes obsolete in 15 years. But architects in Persia, farmers in medieval France, and homesteaders across colonial America cooled entire buildings through the worst summers on record using living plants that cost almost nothing to plant and nothing at all to operate. Those plants still exist. Most of them grow faster than you expect, cost almost nothing to start, and do 3 jobs at once: cooling your walls, feeding your family, and making your property beautiful while they work. Here are 13 vining plants that cover, feed, and cool your home naturally, the way every hot climate on Earth solved this problem before air conditioning was invented. Ranked from impressive to absolutely incredible. Welcome to the channel where we uncover forgotten solutions that modern industries buried. If you believe nature already solved the problems corporations sell back to us, you are in the right place. Item 1. Virginia Creeper, the insulating armor. Colonial American builders planted Virginia creeper against their homes deliberately. It was not decoration, it was engineering. Every stone farmhouse and brick building along the eastern seaboard used this native vine as a living thermal layer that reduced indoor temperatures without a single moving part. Here is the science that colonial builders understood intuitively. Virginia creeper creates a dead air space between its leaf mass and your wall surface. That air gap insulates in winter and prevents solar heat gain in summer. Studies at green building research institutions have documented exterior wall temperature reductions of up to 36 degrees Fahrenheit on sun-facing surfaces covered with Virginia creeper compared to bare walls in direct sunlight. Your air conditioning system works against that 36-degree heat load every single day it runs. Remove the heat load and you remove the need for the machine. Virginia creeper grows 6 to 10 feet per year, attaches to surfaces with adhesive pads that cause 0 structural damage when properly established, and turns a spectacular crimson in autumn. It requires no watering once established, no fertilizer, and no maintenance beyond occasional directional pruning. The HVAC industry never mentions this because a vine that cools your home costs 1 trip to a nursery. Their system costs a decade of monthly payments. For anyone who wants a proven thermal barrier that colonial builders relied on for centuries before electricity existed, Virginia creeper is the living insulation that modern building science is only now quantifying. Item 2. Bitter melon, the tropical cooler that feeds you. Across South and Southeast Asia, bitter melon vines have covered the walls and trellises of homes for over 3,000 years. Traditional builders in India, Thailand, and Vietnam did not separate architecture from agriculture. The same plant that shaded the south-facing wall also fed the household through the hottest months of the year. Here is what makes bitter melon remarkable for home cooling. The broad tropical leaves create a dense canopy that intercepts solar radiation before it reaches wall surfaces. Researchers at the National University of Singapore measured a 6 to 8 degrees Celsius reduction in indoor ambient temperature in rooms with bitter melon-covered exterior walls compared to unshaded rooms in the same building. That reduction is equivalent to running an air conditioning unit at significant cost around the clock. The fruits produced by the same vine that cools your wall are among the most studied natural compounds for blood sugar regulation in the world. Traditional Asian medicine has used bitter melon for diabetes management for centuries. Modern clinical trials confirm its hypoglycemic effects. Your cooling vine feeds you medicine at the same time. One vine planted at a south-facing wall produces cooling shade within a single growing season. The same vine produces 20 to 30 fruits over the summer. For anyone who wants a tropical cooling vine that reduces indoor temperatures by measurable degrees while producing medically significant food from the same plant, bitter melon is the ancient Asian wall covering that does two important jobs simultaneously. Item 3. Hop vine, the medieval cooling plant. Every medieval European brewery and farmhouse grew hop vines along south and west-facing walls specifically for summer shade and cooling. The same plant that flavored the ale also regulated the temperature of every room behind the wall it covered. Separating these functions is a modern industrial idea. Traditional farmers never saw them as separate. Here is what makes hop vine exceptional for rapid coverage. It grows 20 to 25 feet in a single season from a dormant rhizome planted in spring. Nothing else in the temperate climate vine world matches that speed. By midsummer, the wall is covered. By late summer, the cooling benefit is fully operational, exactly when summer heat peaks. Hops die back completely in winter, which means they cool in summer and allow full solar gain through bare stems in winter, the opposite of what you want from insulation in cold months and exactly what you want from a cooling plant in warm months. No HVAC system adjusts seasonally without a programmable thermostat and additional energy cost. The hop vine adjusts itself for free. The hop flowers harvested from the same plant contain lupulin, a compound traditional herbalists used as a sleep aid and anti-anxiety medicine for centuries. Dry them, brew them into tea, or add them to pillows. Modern pharmaceutical research has confirmed their sedative properties and patented synthetic versions. The plant is still unpatentable. For anyone who wants the fastest-growing seasonal cooling vine in the temperate world with a medicinal harvest bonus, the hop vine is the medieval farmhouse solution that covered walls and stocked medicine cabinets at the same time. 3 vines, and we have not yet reached the one that Persian engineers incorporated into palace architecture 2,500 years ago, specifically because it reduced interior temperatures so dramatically that royal courts moved their summer residents to buildings covered in it. That vine is coming at number 8. Keep watching. Item 4. Scarlet runner bean, the edible curtain. Thomas Jefferson grew scarlet runner beans up the walls of Monticello, not because they were pretty, though they are spectacular, but because he understood that a food-producing vine covering a south-facing wall was more efficient than any passive cooling strategy that did not also feed people. Jefferson was an architect. He understood the thermal dynamics of his building. He chose plants over bare masonry deliberately. Here is what scarlet runner bean delivers as a cooling vine. The broad leaves create full interception of solar radiation on wall surfaces. The dense growth habit means no gaps in the canopy by midsummer. Growth reaches 10 to 15 feet in a single season from direct sown seed. Every part of the plant is edible. Young pods like green beans, matured beans like a rich buttery shell bean, and the tuberous roots as a starchy vegetable in climates where the plant is grown as a perennial. The brilliant scarlet flowers attract hummingbirds in quantities that make any garden extraordinary through summer. The same flowers precede bean pods that can be harvested continuously throughout the growing season. Seed costs almost nothing. 1 packet of scarlet runner bean seed covers 15 feet of wall and produces food continuously from first harvest through autumn frost. For anyone who wants an edible cooling curtain that covers walls fast, produces food through the hottest months, and does it all from a packet of seeds that costs less than a single meal, Scarlet Runner Bean is the founding father's wall covering that fed and cooled simultaneously. Item 5. Wisteria, the ancient Asian cooling canopy. Chinese and Japanese garden architects incorporated wisteria into building design for over 1,000 years as a primary strategy for cooling outdoor living spaces and sun-facing walls. Traditional Japanese farmhouses, minka, used wisteria pergolas along south-facing facades to create shaded corridors that reduced heat penetration into living spaces through the summer months. These structures still stand. Many are over 300 years old. Here is what makes wisteria a cooling plant of genuine power. A mature wisteria develops a woody canopy of extraordinary density. The leaf mass intercepts virtually all direct solar radiation reaching a covered wall or pergola surface. Traditional Japanese builders measured the difference empirically. Rooms behind wisteria-covered south walls were consistently habitable during summer heat without any supplementary cooling. The spring flowering is among the most spectacular of any plant in the temperate world. Cascading purple and white flower clusters fill the air with fragrance that traditional perfumers valued for centuries. Summer leaf mass is dense enough to block all but filtered light. Winter dormancy allows full solar penetration exactly when passive solar heat gain is desirable. Wisteria lives for centuries. The oldest documented wisteria in Japan is over 1,200 years old and still flowers. Your air conditioning system will be obsolete in 15 years and in a landfill in 20. For anyone who wants a cooling canopy that outlasts every HVAC system ever manufactured by a factor of 80, wisteria is the 1,000-year Asian architectural plant that modern building design stopped using the moment air conditioning became cheap to install and profitable to maintain. Item 6. Malabar spinach, the tropical wall vegetable. Traditional farmers across tropical Africa, India, and Southeast Asia grew Malabar spinach up the walls of outbuildings and kitchen garden fences as a dual-purpose crop. Summer shade and continuous leafy vegetable harvest from the same plant in the same space. The concept of a plant that earns its wall space by performing two jobs was universal in traditional agriculture. Modern gardening separated ornamental from edible and lost the efficiency of both. Here is what Malabar spinach delivers as a wall covering in hot climates. It grows rapidly in heat that stops most temperate vegetables, thriving in conditions above 90 degrees Fahrenheit when standard spinach bolts immediately. The thick, succulent leaves create a reflective surface that deflects solar radiation rather than absorbing it, further reducing wall heat gain. Growth reaches 10 feet or more in a single season in warm climates. The leaves are nutritionally dense, rich in vitamins A and C, calcium and iron at levels that compare favorably with standard spinach. They cook exactly like spinach and taste milder. Harvest continuously throughout summer without ever stopping the plant's growth. The more you harvest, the more it produces. Traditional tropical farmers never bought salad greens through summer because this vine covered their walls and fed them simultaneously from June through first frost. For anyone in a warm climate who wants a wall-cooling vine that produces nutritious leafy greens through the hottest months when most greens fail, Malabar spinach is the tropical kitchen wall garden that colonial-era tropical farmers never stopped growing. Item 7. Kiwi vine, the cooling powerhouse with fruit. Traditional Japanese farmers in Yamanashi Prefecture have grown hardy kiwi vines over the roofs and walls of farmhouses for centuries. The practice was so common that traditional Japanese rural architecture assumed kiwi coverage as a standard element of building thermal management. Western architects and HVAC engineers who visited Japan in the early 20th century documented this practice with admiration and then returned home and installed compressors instead. Here is what makes kiwi vine a serious cooling plant. The large, bold leaves of a mature kiwi vine create one of the densest natural canopies of any temperate climate fruiting vine. A well-established kiwi covering a south wall blocks solar radiation with an efficiency that measurably reduces interior temperatures. Hardy kiwi varieties survive winters down to -25 degrees Fahrenheit, making this viable across nearly all of North America and Europe. The fruit produced by the same vine is nutritionally extraordinary. Hardy kiwi fruits contain more vitamin C per gram than oranges and more potassium than bananas. They require no peeling. Pop them whole into your mouth. A mature vine produces 50 to 100 pounds of fruit annually once established, in years 3 through 5. A kiwi vine planted this spring will cover your wall completely within 5 years and produce fruit for the next 50 years without any input beyond annual pruning. No HVAC system in history has produced food. For anyone who wants a cooling vine that transforms a south-facing wall into a 50-year fruit-producing thermal barrier, Hardy Kiwi is the Japanese farmhouse wall covering that cools your home and feeds your family from the same plant. 7 vines, and we have crossed Asia, Europe, the Americas, and the tropics without once spending $1 on electricity. But the vine at number 10 does something none of the others do. Traditional builders in the hottest inhabited places on Earth used it not just to shade walls, but to actively cool air through evaporation, the same principle as your air conditioner's evaporator coil, powered entirely by the plant's own biology. Keep watching. Item 8. Grapevine, the Persian Palace Cooler. Persian palace architects incorporated grapevines into building design 2,500 years ago as a primary passive cooling strategy. The ruins of ancient Persian gardens, paradisa, the origin of the word paradise, show systematic integration of grapevines over structures designed to maximize shade and airflow. Royal courts moved their summer residents to grape-covered buildings specifically because the temperature differential was significant enough to be worth the relocation. Here is what traditional builders understood about grapevines as cooling infrastructure. The large palmate leaves of a mature grapevine create total solar interception over covered surfaces. The transpiration process, water moving from soil through vine to leaf surface where it evaporates, actively removes heat from the surrounding air, just as sweating cools the human body. A mature grapevine transpires dozens of gallons of water per day, cooling the air around it through continuous evaporation. European farmhouses from Portugal to Hungary traditionally built south-facing grape pergolas as standard architectural features. The same pergola that shaded the summer terrace produced hundreds of pounds of fruit that fed the household through autumn and provided wine or juice stored through winter. The cooling infrastructure paid for itself in food every single year. A grapevine planted today on a south pergola or wall will begin providing meaningful cooling within 3 years and reach full productive maturity by year 5. At maturity, it will produce 15 to 30 pounds of fruit annually while providing complete summer shade. For anyone who wants the cooling plant sophisticated enough for Persian palace architects and productive enough to feed a European farmhouse family for generations, the grapevine is the 2,500-year-old cooling and feeding machine that built entire agricultural civilizations around its dual function. Item 9. Passion flower vine, the medicinal cooling curtain. Native American tribes across the southeastern United States used passion flower as both a building shade plant and a primary medicinal herb long before European contact. Spanish missionaries arriving in the Americas in the 1500s documented passion flower-covered structures and the plant's medicinal use in detail, then shipped it back to Europe, where it became one of the most widely prescribed herbal sedatives in European medicine for the next 400 years. Here is what makes passion flower a genuinely dual-purpose cooling and medicinal plant. Growth reaches 20 feet in a single season from established rootstock. The deeply lobed exotic leaves create dense coverage with an ornamental quality that no other cooling vine matches. The flowers are among the most extraordinary in the plant kingdom. Intricate structures in purple, white, and blue that stop garden visitors completely. The same vine's leaves and tendrils contain chrysin, vitexin, and isovitexin, compounds confirmed in clinical research to reduce anxiety and improve sleep quality through GABA receptor modulation. European physicians prescribed passion flower tea for insomnia and nervous exhaustion for over 3 centuries. Modern pharmaceutical research has confirmed the mechanism and filed patents on synthetic versions of its active compounds. The vine growing up your wall contains the same compounds for free. For anyone who wants a fast-growing exotic cooling vine that covers walls in a single season and produces anxiety-reducing medicinal harvests from the same growth, passion flower is the Native American wall medicine that covered buildings and stocked medicine cabinets simultaneously on 2 continents for centuries. Item 10. Luffagord vine, the evaporative cooling vine. Traditional farmers and builders in Egypt, India, China, and West Africa grew Luffagord vines over the roofs and walls of buildings for centuries as the most effective natural evaporative cooling system available without mechanical assistance. The principle is identical to how your air conditioner's evaporator coil works. Evaporating water removes heat from surrounding air. The Luffavine performs this process continuously using nothing but sunlight and soil moisture. Here is the evaporative cooling mechanism that traditional tropical builders exploited. Luffa's massive leaves have a higher transpiration rate per square foot than almost any other common vining plant. On a hot, dry day, a fully established Luffa vine covering a roof surface can transpire enough water to measurably reduce both surface temperature and ambient air temperature in the space beneath it. Measurements taken in traditional Indian agricultural buildings with Luffa-covered roofs show interior temperatures 8 to 12 degrees Celsius lower than identical unshaded buildings. The same vine produces Luffagords, the natural sponge material used worldwide before synthetic alternatives. Young, tender Luffa fruits are edible, tasting like a mild zucchini. Mature fruits dry into the fibrous sponge material, valued for bathing, cleaning, and traditional craft. Growth in warm conditions is extraordinary, 30 feet or more in a single season. One seed started indoors in early spring covers an entire roof or wall by midsummer in warm climates. For anyone who wants the evaporative cooling vine that traditional builders in the world's hottest inhabited regions relied on for centuries, producing the same cooling effect as mechanical refrigeration at zero operating cost, Luffagord is the evaporative machine that nature built before engineers thought they could improve on it. Item 11. Dutchman's pipe, the architect's cooling vine. American architects of the arts and crafts movement in the early 1900s specified Dutchman's pipe vine in building designs as a primary passive cooling element for porch and facade coverage. Frank Lloyd Wright referenced native vines in his organic architecture philosophy. Arts and crafts pattern books from 1900 to 1930 included vine coverage specifications alongside structural drawings as standard building components. Then, air conditioning became widely available in the 1950s, and architects stopped specifying plants in favor of machines. Here is what those architects understood that modern building codes ignore. Dutchman's pipe produces some of the largest leaves of any temperate climate vine, individual leaves reaching 12 inches across. That leaf size means fewer gaps in the canopy and more complete solar interception per foot of coverage than any fine-leaved vine alternative. Coverage is total, dense, and visually impenetrable within 2 to 3 seasons. Growth reaches 20 to 30 feet in favorable conditions. The unusual pipe-shaped flowers that give the plant its name are followed by seed pods that resemble small decorative gourds. The plant is the exclusive larval food source for the pipe vine swallowtail butterfly, one of the most spectacular butterflies in North America, meaning a covered wall becomes a butterfly habitat through summer. Arts and crafts homes built in 1910 with Dutchman's pipe coverage were documented by their original owners as requiring no supplementary cooling through American summers that reached over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. For anyone who wants the cooling vine that American architects built into their finest homes before the machine replaced the plant, Dutchman's pipe is the organic architecture solution that the air conditioning industry quietly made obsolete. Item 12. Hyacinth bean vine, the fastest edible cooling screen. Thomas Jefferson grew hyacinth bean vine at Monticello alongside scarlet runner bean because he understood that the fastest possible wall coverage in a single season required a plant that grew with almost reckless speed. Hyacinth bean vine has been cultivated in Africa and Asia for over 3,000 years as a dual-purpose food and shade plant. It arrived in the Americas through the slave trade and became a staple of American southern garden culture for both its coverage speed and its beauty. Here is what makes hyacinth bean the fastest single-season cooling solution on this list. In warm conditions, it grows 10 to 15 feet in 8 weeks from direct sown seed. Plant it in late spring, and by midsummer your wall is covered. No other edible vine in the temperate world matches that establishment speed. The coverage is dense, lush, and ornamentally spectacular. Deep green leaves, vivid purple flower clusters, and dramatic iridescent purple seed pods that persist through autumn. The beans are edible when young and green. Mature, dried beans require thorough cooking but provide protein-dense food through winter storage. The flowers attract pollinators in extraordinary numbers. The purple seed pods provide ornamental interest long after the growing season ends. One packet of seed planted at a bare south wall in late May produces complete wall coverage by August in most warm climates. The total investment is the cost of seeds. The total cooling benefit begins operating within 60 days of planting. For anyone who wants the fastest possible edible cooling screen from seed to full wall coverage, hyacinth bean vine is the 3,000-year-old African and Asian dual-purpose plant that American founding fathers grew because nothing else covered a wall and fed a household faster. Item 13. Hardy kiwi vine superior, Actinidia arguta, the ultimate cooling machine. Every vine on this list does something remarkable, but the number one position belongs to a plant that combines the fastest establishment of any fruiting vine, the densest cooling canopy of any temperate climate plant, the most nutritionally complete fruit of any vine in this list, and a cold hardiness that makes it viable from Florida to Alaska. Actinidia arguta, super hardy kiwi, was cultivated in traditional Korean, Chinese, and Japanese mountain farming communities for centuries before Western horticulture discovered it in the 1800s and spent the next 100 years trying to commercialize it, unsuccessfully. Here is why super hardy kiwi earns the top position on this list. It grows 6 to 12 feet per year once established, creating a woody, permanent canopy structure that becomes more effective as a thermal barrier every single year it grows. Unlike annual vines that require replanting, this vine builds permanent infrastructure. The canopy density of a mature super hardy kiwi covering a south wall is among the highest of any deciduous vine, comparable to wisteria, but achieved in a fraction of the time. The fruit production is extraordinary. Grape-sized kiwi fruits ripen in late summer and autumn in clusters of 20 to 30 per stem. A mature vine produces 50 pounds or more of fruit annually. The fruits require no peeling, contain 3 times the vitamin C of an orange, and store at cool room temperature for weeks after harvest. Cold hardiness to minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit means this vine grows where wisteria and grape fail. It thrives in conditions that defeat most fruiting plants. Once established, it requires nothing beyond annual pruning to maintain coverage and maximize fruit production. The commercial food industry ignored super hardy kiwi entirely because the fruits are too small and too fragile for mechanical harvesting and industrial packaging. The machine problem again. Your hands have no such limitation. Your wall has no such requirement. For anyone who wants the most complete natural cooling solution available, a permanent, increasingly effective thermal barrier that produces abundant, nutritious fruit, survives any North American winter, and builds value into your property every year it grows, super hardy kiwi is the Korean mountain farming secret that modern architecture never adopted, and your energy bill desperately needs. 13 vines. Every hot climate on Earth represented. Persian palaces, Japanese farmhouses, colonial American homesteads, tropical Asian villages, and medieval European breweries, all arriving at the same conclusion independently. Living plants on walls and roofs cost nothing to operate, improve every year, produce food as a bonus, and outlast every mechanical system ever manufactured. Your air conditioner will need replacing in 15 years. The grapevine covering your pergola will still be producing fruit and cooling your home in 100 years if you plant it this spring. The HVAC industry did not solve the cooling problem better. They solved it more profitably. Pick one vine from this list that suits your climate and your wall. Plant it this season. By next summer, you will have coverage. By the summer after that, you will have cooling. The knowledge is older than electricity. It never stopped working. Hit subscribe to Peaceful Green Gardens. We uncover forgotten solutions every week that modern industries buried. Drop a comment below telling me which vine you were planting first and which wall you were covering. I read every single one. Share this with anyone paying too much every month to cool a home that living plants could cool for free. The vines still work. They always did. See you in the next one.